I think your work is fundamentally, categorically different from Tolkien, because Tolkien doesn't have politics.
Right.
The Shire is envisaged as this place where no politics exists. There's no political tension really there. It's this kind of settled state that's kind of perfect. And then wickedness comes into the world, which comes from one land, and it infects the rest of the world. Whereas politics, in your world, is everywhere, which is what life is like, of course. There are always political tensions.
There is a little politics in Tolkien. I mean, to be fair here, even in the Shire, at the end, the scouring of the Shire, where the Shire becomes corrupted, it's Saruman comes in under the guise of Sharky, and he corrupts some of the local hobbits who want power, like the Sackville Bagginses. And
but
so
without Saruman, it wouldn't be politicized. Normally the hobbits are fine; they're beyond politics. They don't. They squabble, but there's no real serious political difficulty, is there? That's the thing.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. You have also have politics in Gondor, where the stewards don't want to give way to the true kings.
That's true.
They've been stewards for so long that they don't. What king? What king? He went away thousands of years ago. We're not going for that. But it's true that it's minimal. And Tolkien, I don't know if he actually subscribed to it, but certainly Lord of the Rings endorses this thing that you see in a lot of fantasy, which is the belief that a good man will be a good king, which is a reassuring belief that we would have. We like to think that the leaders that we support are good men, and the leaders that we oppose are maybe less good men, or in some cases bad men, because they have bad policies. But if you actually look at history, it's far more, you can't just say, and then Aragorn became king and ruled wisely for 1,000 years. I want to know, okay, what were Aragorn's policies as king? What was his taxation policy?
Yeah.
How did he handle times of famine and things like that? What did he do in Two Lords? How did he handle the orc problem? I mean,
exactly. And he's so sullen and
thousands of
withdrawn.
orcs left over at the end of the war. Did he campaign on a policy of genocide?
Yeah,
Let's just find all
ethnic
these
cleansing of the
together.
orcs. Yes,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and given he was so sullen and withdrawn, how did he persuade anyone to come along with whatever project he was trying to achieve? And who died and made him king anyway, as they say. As they say.
So I've seen, studying history, you see great kings who are actually seem to be pretty loathsome people, but they're smart in terms of the policies that they adopt, and they produce certain prosperity for their kingdoms. And you even see this in the present day. I mean, certainly in America, in my lifetime, I think the best man ever to be president was Jimmy Carter. I mean, if you look at Jimmy Carter's life, here's a man who's very intelligent, very caring and compassionate, wanted to do the right thing in everything, but he was a failure as a president. He was not a good president. I voted for him the first time and had to go to a third-party candidate. This is when he ran for re-election.
Have you seen that episode of The Simpsons where they erect a statue of Jimmy Carter in Springfield and people scream and they go, "He's history's greatest monster," and the town erupts into rioting?
No, I missed that one. But it's just the proof. It's not enough to be a good man to be a good king.
You need guile, don't you? Yes.
Well, you need something. It's a process of making decisions, and sometimes you get very. I mean, you look at somebody like Lyndon Baines Johnson. Another president of my lifetime. His war on poverty, his dream of the Great Society, is a very idealistic dream. Yeah, some conservatives might say, well, it was all wrong, it was socialist and all that. But putting that debate aside, if he could have succeeded in that, he would be remembered like LBJ and then the New Deal and, like FDR and the New Deal and all that. That was his idea, to complete the New Deal and to produce a society without poverty and want. But then he got sidetracked by the Vietnam War, and it completely destroyed his administration and destroyed him, I think, and destroyed his historical reputation. So you're trying to do good things on the one hand, and on the other hand, you get dragged into this war and you make a number of the wrong decisions. I guess that's a very long way of saying it's hard to be the king or the president. It's hard to know the right thing to do, and there are unintended consequences to every decision that you make. And people rise up in opposition whose ox is being gored, and this stuff fascinates me, and I'd love to write about it. So it's very much a part of Westeros. The decisions are not easy, like do the good thing and do the bad thing. Sometimes if you do the good thing, there's going to be lots of nasty consequences to you and yours. So maybe you should do the bad thing, or try to figure out some third thing to do. And I want to grapple with all of that. So yeah, politics is definitely part of it.
What do you think of that edict? Write about what you know. That writer's edict that's told to everyone who goes to writing school, write about what you know. I mean, there'd be no Game of Thrones if that were true, wouldn't it?
Yes and no. When I first heard that, when I was a young writer as a kid, and I heard that, I was very troubled by that comment, because I didn't want to just write about a kid growing up in the projects. I wanted to write about other worlds. I wanted to write science fiction and fantasy. I didn't want to write autobiographical fiction, but I think as I have gotten older and I got a little deeper understanding of writing, and I think there's great truth to that, but it doesn't have to be taken literally. It doesn't mean that if you're, if you're born and raised in Brisbane, you can only write about some kid being born and raised in Brisbane in the 70s.
I know. What would it be if you just wrote about New Jersey in the 60s? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it would be. I mean, that's a valid thing to do. There are some writers who are terrific at that. We're about in my Jean Cocteau Theater. We have authors in too, and as soon as I get back from this trip, we're having Pat Conroy, an amazing writer, one of the great American writers of our time, I think, and his work is hugely autobiographical. He's almost everything he writes, you can see the specter of his abusive father in it. The great Santini. His new book is The Death of Santini, but even in things like Prince of Tides and all that. And that's great. You can do that, but you can also do the other thing. And certainly my life, the things I know, do give my fiction its power. There's a lot of me in Tyrion Lannister. There's a lot of me in Samwell Tarly, or even in characters like Arya or Daenerys. Feelings I've had, ways of looking at the world, and what you know doesn't always mean what you've experienced, too. I know a lot of things because I've read about them in books, because I've studied history, because I've studied literature, and, read all of the great writers who've gone before me. That's stuff I know, too. So when Write What You Know, those are things I know, and it's all grist for the mill.
How about the other dictum, which is for a writer, you should find the area of your greatest pain and write about that?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Who
said that?
Oh, I don't know. That's something that's been floating around for a while, I think. Yeah, and that way, when you're most, a friend of mine said this, you're most vulnerable. That's when you're most at your strongest, in a funny way, as a writer.
Well, yes, I think that's true. There's a question of writing from the head or writing from the heart. And I think great literature is written from the heart, or some people would say is written from the guts or the balls, or wherever you want. But it has, writing fiction in particular is about emotion. You sometimes see science fiction called the literature of ideas. But really, if you want to argue ideas, write essays, write nonfiction. That's the best thing to do ideas, to express an idea and weigh arguments. Fiction is about emotion. You can write an anti-slavery tract, as many abolitionists did in the 1840s and the 1850s. But if you really want to make a case of slavery, you write Uncle Tom's Cabin, and you punch people in the gut, and you create characters, and you make an emotional case. That's what fiction is all about, the emotions.